Okay, now we're going to move on to task 5, part 2. So this is a new technique and it's what's called an offset, guys. So I'm going to show you how to plan your bend and then also carry out the bend. So first things first, we need to work out how much pipe we're going to use. So if we take a look at the drawing, we need to establish what our offset height is. Our offset height is 70 mil. Okay, so first of all, on a piece of paper, I'm going to mark a straight line. Okay, once we've got that straight line, we then need to mark 2 points at 70 mil apart. 70 mil is the offset height. Once we've got those 2 points, we can then draw a second line. We then have 2 parallel lines at 70 millimeters apart. Okay, so we've then got our 2 lines. So let's mark a starting point. We'll start the bend here. What we need to do, looking at the drawing, we need to measure back. We need to measure 150 millimeters. Okay. We then need to put our angle in. So this task is asking for a 30-degree bend. So I'm just gonna take my time, make sure that it's accurate. Get my 30-degree bend in place. Okay, then at the other end of the bend from our center, we then need to measure 125 mil. If you look on the drawing, it's 125 mil. So we're then going to measure from the center of our bend to the end, 125 mil. So we've got a start of our bend, and we've then got an ending point as well, all with a 70 mil offset in place. So once we've drawn our bend out, we can then look at working out how much pipe we're going to need. So let's measure the first section. So we've got 150 mil. We know that the second section is 125. Okay, we can then measure the angle. So from each point, 130, let's say 135. Okay, do the maths quickly. 5, 7, 10, 11, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 410 mil. Okay, so 410 mil is the total pipe needed. We can now go ahead and cut our pipe. So again, position our steel rule accurately. Go to 410, mark the pipe. Take our pipe slice. We've now got our piece of pipe to work with. So we're going to drop our pipe onto our drawing, making sure that our pipe is on your start position, your start mark. We can then mark the beginning of our bend. Now at this point, because we're going to use the measure back system again, for a 30-degree bend on 15 mil, we need to make sure that we are measuring back by 23 millimeters, 10, 23, start of our bend, okay? So that's our measure back mark. We're then going to pop it in the benders. Make sure that it's, again, just disappearing underneath the beginning of the form of that straight edge there. Put the slide in. We're going to bend 30 degrees. Remember, the first mark on our benders isn't 30 degrees, guys, okay? It's 22.5, so it's going to be just past that point there. So I'm going to hold my square in place just to check. Make sure we're good. Okay. So before we go any further, I just want to check that my bend's good. Okay, so that's a fraction over, but again, because it's ductile, we can give that a little bit of a tweak. I wouldn't like to do it if it was any more out. There we go. Happy with that. So that's our first bend. We can now drop this onto our pipe. Start, end, there we go. So our line wants to run down the middle of the pipe. Once it's down the middle of the pipe, we can then go ahead and mark the center where the line passes the pipe, the middle point just there, as if that line had carried on going over, then in the middle of the pipe. So, like so. Okay. So that's our mark. We then need to, again, because we're using the measure back system, we need to measure back 23 mil. Okay, I'm going to pop that in the bender. Now, because we're putting a secondary bend, we need to make sure that we are flat. So important to check before we pull the bend, make sure that we're good. So we're looking to see that the gap at this end is the same as the start, and if the gap is even, just check that our mark's still in place. And we're then going to bend our second bend. This time I'm not going to use a square bar, I'm going to look to bend our second bend so that the pipe ends up parallel to the first section. So we can just look along to overbend it slightly because it'll spring back. And now we have there we go. Drop it back onto our lines, and what we're looking for is that our top and bottom lines finish in the center of the pipe. So if we look at that line there, it's in the center, and then just down the end there, if we look at the line, it's on the running down the center of the pipe at the top there. So there we go, that's our offset pulled. It's nice and flat. We can check our measurements. So from the center of the bend one way, we should have 150 millimeters. It's a little over, so we've got some trimming to do. That's okay. We can mark that and trim it, and then we should have 124. What's going on there?